Can Brandin Cooks help this Bills passing offense, and why the key to beating Pittsburgh is letting James cook? Locked On Bills starts now.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Well, folks, welcome in. This is our last conversation before the Bills face the Steelers in Week 13 in a game that is really important for both teams. Obviously, the Bills currently your number 7 seed. That's the last seed in the AFC playoffs at 7-4. And the Steelers are back to being the number 4 seed after the Ravens got smoked by the Bengals, the Bills' opponent next week on Thursday night. And so they're obviously battling the Ravens for the division. And, the Bills are battling to make the playoffs. So there's a lot at stake for both of these teams on Sunday, a game that both sides need to win. So on today's episode, we're going to give you my 5-game predictions for Sunday. We'll talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills about the injuries, but I want to start with some of the news of the week. And of course, the Bills have a new wide receiver, Brandin Cooks. He's had a great career. He really has. Really nice career. A player that in his prime was a really nice vertical threat, yards after catch, speed, right? He certainly has brought those things. He's closing in on 10,000 receiving yards for his career. But if we're being honest, he has not produced meaningfully since 2021. He's been held under 700 receiving yards in each of the last 4 seasons. He's only averaged 17 yards per game this year for the Saints. And so my expectations here are kind of low. Now, obviously, I don't think it can hurt. It certainly can't hurt. The Bills can use help at receiver, but you probably think like I do that, man, they just have not been able to get receivers going in any type of meaningful way since Joe Brady has taken over this offense. Even Stephon Diggs, they couldn't figure out how to get it going. So I apologize that my enthusiasm and my expectations are low for a receiver that's 32 years old that's added ahead of a Week 13 game that has never played for the Bills or caught a pass from Josh Allen. I just don't have a ton of confidence in this coming together in a way that makes a difference. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. I would have loved the idea of Brandin Cooks in 2020, but it's not 2020. It's almost 2026. Now, again, it can't hurt. The Bills can use a professional receiver, right? Ian Coleman, huge issues there, right? Tyrell Shavers, I love the story, but, he's a depth player. Josh Palmer, can he get healthy and matter in this offense? Elijah Moore's been released. We'll talk about that in a second. Curtis Samuel, hurt all the time. So, yeah, they could use Brandin Cooks. I just have my doubts that it's going to come together in a meaningful way. I hope it does. I really do. The Bills need the help, and I hope it comes together and he winds up being a huge catalyst for offensive success down the stretch for this football team. Now, the Bills also released receiver Elijah Moore. Signed a 1-year, $2.5 million contract that was fully guaranteed. And boy, this is a bad signing, right? Did not age well. And it's a black eye, another black eye on the resume of Brandon Beane, which has just been dreadful, especially this offseason. I like the skill set. I think anybody can watch Elijah Moore at any point of ever seeing Elijah Moore play football and say, hey, it's a really nice skill set. Now, obviously, there's some challenges with the application of that skill set. Hasn't really latched on for the 3 teams that he's been on, and all 3 teams have needed help at receiver. In Buffalo in particular, he just never claimed much of a role. And again, I think it brings up bigger questions about wide receivers and roles under Joe Brady. Because outside of Khalil Shakir, who's kind of a very specialized player, what receiver has worked out? It's concerning. I think Elijah Moore's lack of physicality probably hurt his chances of playing a lot for the Bills. They require a lot of blocking out of the receivers, and kind of in a niche role, he just didn't do much. So, not a great use of $2.5 million. The Bills also welcome back Shaq Lawson to the practice squad. And look, my expectations are low here as well. He played 1 game in 2024, and he was not on a team at all so far this year. Wasn't in a camp, didn't have any type of offseason. I mean, he's coming in cold to the practice squad. Now, hopefully he doesn't have to play, but if we're being honest, TJ Sanders is getting reps at defensive end right now. TJ Sanders, the guy they drafted high in the 2nd round, traded up to play defensive tackle. This guy's having to play defensive end. Daquan Jones is having to play defensive end. And so while I am annoyed about him being back in the mix, just like I know many of you are, well, I'm probably more annoyed that I'm watching TJ Sanders in his rookie season not playing in the correct position. So if that helps eliminate that, well, good. Welcome back, Shaq. I said this on the Bill Squad show. A point of pride for Brandon Beane in his career was when he was the interim general manager for the Carolina Panthers. I think in 2012 was the year. When he got that title, they fired Marty Herney, and he's the interim GM, and he signed 2 players off practice squads, Mario Addison and Graham Gano. Both players went on to have great careers. Mario Addison had 4 consecutive seasons of 9 or more sacks after Beane signed him off of the Washington practice squad. Graham Gano has become a very good kicker in the NFL. Where's that Brandon Beane? Where's the guy that did that? And that was a point of pride for him. Instead, it's Shaq Lawson on the wrong side of 30 and can't get a look in the league right now. Again, I don't want to overreact to a practice squad signing in week 13. I don't want to. But I think you can look at the bigger picture and find some of my takeaways here to be pretty reasonable. I think we're just looking for upside, right? We're looking for upside. That's what I'm hoping for. I want upside. I don't want more of the same. I want upside. And it's hard to find it right now. But Shaq Lawson back in the mix. The other piece of news that I want to address real quick is Tylen Grable. The Bills open up his 21-day practice window, so he's practiced all week. I'm recording this on Friday morning, so maybe he's been added to the roster. Maybe there's other moves, things that have happened that I don't know about, but I am recording this on Friday morning. So I don't know what the situation is. Obviously, I don't feel good about Spencer Brown being able to play this week. We'll see as it relates to Dion Dawkins. But this has kind of been a strange situation with Tylen Grable, who had a great rookie season for the Bills. Looked awesome in preseason, and he actually won the primary backup offensive tackle job coming out of camp. He was the offensive tackle that dressed on game days behind Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. Well, he suffered a core muscle injury, if I'm not mistaken, and he went on injured reserve. And then Ryan Vandemark was back in that spot. But eventually, it was once again Grable being the active 3rd tackle and Ryan Vandemark being inactive. And I thought that really validated the player I watched in preseason. He was really good. And so I've been very excited about Tylen Grable. And he had a concussion during preseason, and he's been on injured reserve since. Like, this guy has not practiced or anything like that. And look, I don't have all the details. But this certainly appears to me like they intentionally stashed Tylen Grable on injured reserve for a long time to maintain flexibility, right? They probably didn't want to have to release Chase Lunt or, another different offensive lineman to make room for Tylen Grable. They can just keep him on injured reserve and have their cake and eat it too. Now, here's the challenge with that is, well, what happens if you suffer multiple injuries at offensive tackle and now all of a sudden you need them? Well, that's where the Bills are. They stashed them for too long. And now they're in a position where they're not going to have Spencer Brown. They may or may not have Dion Dawkins, and you got to figure this out. If you don't have both of those tackles, what are you going to do? You're going to start Ryan Vandemark, and then what? Tylen Grable in his second year after not practicing for 3 months? Chase Lunt, who I would be surprised is able to step in and function at this point, given the skill set, his pedigree, and the circumstances? They stashed him for too long. They played with fire, and now they're getting burned. This guy's coming in cold, and you need him. Well, okay. Should have had him going sooner. Now, again, if his concussion was legit and it's a 3-month concussion, then I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said any of that. But I'd be surprised if that were the case. This smells like a stash that was stashed for too long, and now you need him, and now he's not ready to go. Disappointing management there, for sure. All right, coming up next, we'll talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble about the injury situation, and boy, there's a lot to get into. Then we'll close things out with my predictions for Sunday, so folks, be sure to stick with me. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It just keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And look, I mean, you probably enjoyed some of these Thanksgiving games. How much more fun would they have been if you had some bets on the line? Maybe you had a spread that you liked or a player prop. Well, get in on the action for Sunday. It'll make every game more exciting. And, of course, the NBA, if you're watching that, definitely get in on the action. It just makes it more fun. So check it out right now. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm joined now by Kyle Trimble. He's a doctor of physical therapy. He runs bangedupbills.com. You can follow him on social media at bangedupbills. He joins us each week to get ready for the upcoming Bills game from an injury perspective, and we got too much to talk about today, Dr. Kyle. I want to start with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is not in jeopardy of missing this game. He has no game day designation, but we know he got beat up. He was sacked 8 times, hit 12 more, and he said his shoulder went numb at one point. We've seen him in practice wearing, some type of pad over his right elbow. What's going on with the quarterback? This is not something that makes me too happy.
So Allen, he did get beat up. I don't recall him getting this beat up in quite a few years. So go back to what you said about those arm, shoulder going numb. That was on the left side. He did go down. That was from when I believe Will Anderson tackled him from behind. He landed hard on the left shoulder. He states it went numb and felt funny for a little bit. He did get some turf burn that they taped up, and that's in the pictures throughout the on the Bills website. So we know that was general turf burn when we saw that even during the pictures during the week. And then as for the right side, he did have this thing called Hex Skin Turf Tape. It's a product by McDavid USA. It's something I had to look up and actually reached out to another vendor who I thought made it called XO Armor, but they directed me to the right place. And it's just a protective padding that allows them to protect against abrasions, trauma, any type of injury that to joints such as that allows them the flexibility to move the joint around without any inhibiting through a brace or anything else like that. So looks like he was trying it out on Wednesday. He then got rid of it on Friday. He's had hits to the area before with regards to hitting the funny bone, and that's what he'd said before. So this comes down to just make sure he's able to protect himself, the area, and make sure that he's not having any problems come Sunday.
So obviously don't ever love anything injury related with Josh Allen. He's definitely working through some stuff that
he's going to play, but you could tell that, he's been banged up a little bit so far. And that's even more concerning because the Bills have ruled out 3 players for this game, including both starting offensive tackles in Spencer Brown and Dion Dawkins. Dawkins with a concussion, Spencer Brown with a shoulder. We saw, the struggles of Spencer Brown playing through that shoulder against Houston. Ultimately couldn't finish the game, but Dion Dawkins did get checked for a concussion. They put him back in the game, and now he's going to miss this next game with a concussion. What can you tell us about these offensive tackles?
It's not great. I mean, it's not great. That's the best way to put it. Going off of Brown first, it looked like he had suffered some type of either subluxation or even partial dislocation, which is subluxation of the right shoulder. This happened earlier in the third quarter. He tried to play through the rest of the series and then got the arm taped up, and this is the right arm specifically, and he just was not the same. And trying to go one-armed against any defensive end, much less Will Anderson, it just wasn't great for him. So this is one of the situations where if it was the playoffs, maybe you brace it up, tape the heck out of it, maybe he plays through it. But if he had done that, you probably have the same issue, in that he's playing one-armed and he takes further hits and just isn't the same player. So it's good that they're resting this week. It's just unfortunate that you also have Dion Dawkins out on the other side. And I will say with Brown that if this is a labrum injury, he did tear the left side at the end of the 2024 season, or no, 2023 season, I should say. And then he got that fixed and he came back just fine. So if this is the same case again, it's unfortunate, but linemen do play through these injuries a lot and they just brace them up and keep moving along. As for Dawkins, we saw him go in for a concussion check midway through the second quarter, I believe it was, and there wasn't a ton of contact at the time, which made it real interesting, but he got checked out, came back in the game, and then he just wasn't looking the same from, with the benefit of hindsight, knowing he's a concussion protocol. Even Mike Catalana of one of the Rochester stations had noted that Dion Dawkins was a little bit off in the locker room when he interviewed him later on. So this does happen where guys go through the concussion check, were cleared, were able to return, and then they develop symptoms later. This isn't a knock on the medical staff or really anybody in general. It's just sometimes you get a hit. It looks like, okay, you're fine. You get cleared, and then you develop symptoms later. They did the right thing by putting me in the concussion protocol when they did realize that he had concussion. So keep in mind when they do get assessed on the sideline, they're getting assessed by an independent neurological doctor. So this doesn't say that they're pushing him back out there, but I don't know that's something that Dawkins would have been trying to push to play through either, like that he's had multiple hits to the head and knows how to game the system or anything. This is his first documented concussion. So for him to try to fake through things and then get back out there when he shouldn't be, I don't believe that would be the case there. So it's unfortunate Dawkins and Brown are both out. This is Dawkins' second second missed game due to injury in his entire career. Keep in mind, he was drafted in 2017. So that's incredibly fortunate he's been as durable as he is. So the Bills have a game plan how to work around this, and they have to figure out a way, because otherwise it's going to be another long day for Josh Allen if they don't plan to play without their 2 starting offensive tackles.
In scouring through some practice photos from Friday, it looks to me like Ryan Vandemark's going to play left tackle and Alec Anderson's going to play right tackle. And Alec Anderson is the Bills' primary reserve interior offensive lineman, but he did play right tackle in college at UCLA. So, and has had some preseason reps at tackle as well for Buffalo. And look, it kind of makes sense. Your other options are Chase Lunt or Tylen Grable. Chase Lunt, I'd have a hard time believing he's ready to go and functional for an NFL game. And then Tylan Grable, well, he's been cold, right? He's been on injured reserve since preseason with a concussion. I know we want to get to Terrell Bernard as another player that's ruled out, but since we're talking offensive tackles, let's get to Tylan Grable. They opened his 21-day window to practice. He's practiced in full all week long. He's officially listed as questionable for the game, according to Sean McDermott and what he said on the radio. But it would certainly appear that he's headed towards being on this roster and at least in a reserve capacity. What do you think took so long here?
Yeah. I suspect that it was just a stash and there wasn't a opportunity to bring him back to the roster. I don't know that the concussion lasts as long as it did. I think we know he had a setback at some point at the end of August, because he did attempt to return to practice on August 19th and then was shut down again. So I think the only offensive line injury that we saw before that was Spencer Brown, I believe, with a calf injury or a lower leg injury. So I just don't think there was an opportunity to bring him back. And when you see 2 offensive tackles go out at the same time, you got to bring him back up, knowing that they have an empty roster spot for him to do that.
Let's get to Terrell Bernard, Bills starting middle linebacker. Ugly looking elbow injury during the game. Some friendly fire with Matt Milano. He's out, but it doesn't look like he's headed towards injury reserve. Same thing with Spencer Brown. Obviously, that could change on Saturday, but maybe they avoided something long term with both these players.
Correct. Yeah, like I said with Brown, it's just something that offensive linemen can play through. It just, you got to brace it up and get through the rest of the season, unless it's just going to be so bad that they can't, have any stability left in the shoulder. As for Bernard, I was worried about that he suffered a forearm fracture. We saw with Taron Johnson last year when he took that helmet to the forearm when Milano unfortunately hit him, but it was more of a hyperextension at the elbow. This is something that in playoffs, maybe he could have braced up and played through, but then you can't really block effectively. You can't tackle very effectively. And then this thing's just so angry because, the hyperextension, there's not anywhere for that bone to really go further than it should have been. So there might be other underlying damage in there, but it just give him a chance to rest. And the way he's been playing, this is probably for the best to get him, hopefully right for the playoffs. But it's unfortunate you're missing him, but that's just the reality of the NFL.
Two players listed as questionable for the Bills, tight end Dalton Kincaid, who's missed a couple of games in a row with a hamstring. Then Josh Palmer, who was a limited participant on Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, was limited on Friday with an ankle designation, questionable for Sunday. What do you have on Kincaid and Palmer?
We'll go with Palmer first. McDermott had said that the ankle was still sore, the left side being from the Atlanta Falcons game. So it's something that he was just working through. He stopped short of saying it was aggravated during practice, but it sounds like he's going to play based off this is the same ankle. And we know those high ankle sprains can linger. So this isn't really too concerning. And it's fortunate that he could be ready to go, even if he's not still 100%, because that's just how the nature of the injury is. As for Kincaid, he was do not participate on Wednesday, limited participant Thursday and Friday. We don't get any video of him moving around, which isn't a surprise because they want to keep everything close to the vest. Looking at how that practice presentation went, I went back through and looked at all the different hamstring injuries since 2017 to see what the plan was for when they have guys participating like that. There's a few instances of that. Some are good, some are not good. The guys that haven't played with a do not participate limited were LaShawn McCoy, Devin Singletary, and Shaq Thompson. All were questionable, did not play. The guys that did play were Tywan Jones, Sam Martin, and Robert Foster. So keep in mind with all those different players there, Sam Martin is a special teamer. Same with Tywan Jones. And then Robert Foster was the only exception where he played a lot of snaps that game after having that designation. But based off the data that we see and the positional demands and the number of snaps that Kincaid's going to play, I would lean toward him sitting out again one more week just to make sure he's right for the playoffs. I want to say my gut that he's going to play, but the data says otherwise. And there's a lot of data to support how they manage these hamstrings and know when there's a chance to re-injure them. So the Bills are fairly conservative when it comes to this. And I would not be surprised if we keep him out one more week, given the cold, the recency of the injury, and then just knowing what they have to do to get to the playoffs.
Last thing here is Curtis Samuel. And maybe this is the last time we discuss Curtis Samuel, who has just been banged up throughout his entire career. And so unsurprising that his entire legacy in Buffalo is going to be pretty much remembered by injuries, but the Bills put him on injured reserve with his elbow/knee injury. Gabe Davis is now on the active roster. I guess your potential final thoughts on Curtis Samuel.
It's like a mercy killing. It's like a mercy killing is the best way to put it there. Just injury after injury after injury after injury. I know the guy wants to play. I know he wants to get out there. He's a talent when he does play, but he just was never healthy. And it's funny is when you have all different beat reporters talking about different injuries he's dealing with, you could have listed every body part and he probably had injured some type of different body part at one point or another. So he went on the injury reserve for an elbow, and then it was a knee injury this week. And I have no idea where this knee injury came from because he hadn't played last game. So he can return later this season if they need wide receiver help. But at this point, it's like just get him to the injury reserve, fill his roster spot with somebody who's available, and move on and hopefully get to the playoffs.
Yeah, and look, if they get to the playoffs and they would like to have him, maybe he be available. He could be an X factor or something like that. And maybe that's their best chance to actually get something from him is to put him on the shelf and, break glass in case of emergency. All right. That's way too much to discuss. That wasn't the plan, but the Bills, they're banged up. Hopefully they can get through this one healthy and get ready for the Cincinnati Bengals. But either way, Dr. Kyle Trimble, thanks for hopping on and sharing some of your expertise.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe, and go Bills.
All right, folks, welcome back. It is prediction time here on the podcast. Real quick, would love to remind you about thejoemarino.com. I have got a lot going on. I've got other podcasts. I have other content opportunities where I provide written and film content for you to enjoy. We also have a text club where you can get text messages throughout the week from me about Bills news, in-game text with my analysis on what's going on. I've got a Discord channel. We have over 2,000 Bills fans in there talking Bills all day long. We've got a lot going on. We have a merchandise shop if you want to check out some of the shirts that we have. It's all there. Check out thejoemarino.com and get plugged in, and would love for you to be part of our community. Again, that's thejoemarino.com. There's a link in today's show notes. All right, prediction time here. I've got 5 of them for you. Let's do it. Number 1, I am predicting for the Bills offense to commit 1 or fewer turnovers. 1 or fewer. And they're cold right now when it comes to protecting the football. It's not been a good situation. I think Josh Allen has committed multiple giveaways in each of the last 3 games. The Bills are 10th in percentage of drives that end in a giveaway. 10th at 12%. Last year, that was 4.6%. It is not looking good, and it's a big problem. The Bills, when they turn it over, I think more than twice, they're like 1-4 this year. And when they don't, they're undefeated. And the Steelers are very good at taking away the football. They had the 3rd highest rate of drives ending in turnovers. So the Bills top 10 in giving away the football. Steelers top 3 in taking it away. I predict the Bills have 1 or fewer turnovers on Sunday. Number 2, let's talk a little Brandin Cooks. I think he plays, and I think he catches 2 or more passes. Part of that's probably a necessity, but also I feel like there's probably going to be some urgency here to get this thing going. And the Steelers have given up the 2nd most passing yards in the NFL this year. They got some injuries at corner. I feel like there's going to be a few, hey, go route him up. Josh is going to throw you the football. So I think he'll get 2 or more receptions on Sunday. This is where you got to attack the Steelers team. They run a very high rate of man coverage. They run a very high rate of 1 high middle of the field close coverage schemes. You got to throw the ball outside. And we'll see what the Bills have at receiver, but I think they will have Cooks. I think he'll catch a couple of passes. Number 3, I am predicting 20 carries or more for James Cook. And that hasn't happened that much this year. It's only happened 3 times in 11 games. But I feel like this is a game where it's going to be necessary. I think the Bills are going to have some challenges with their protection schemes. Their passing offense has been highly inconsistent. Who knows what's going to happen at receiver? I think this is the type of game where you ride the thing that's been consistent for you. It's James Cook and your rushing offense. You need to get a win. Go run the ball with James Cook. And the Steelers' run defense hasn't been great. They're 24th in EPA this year. The Bills are 29th. They're bad at stopping the run, too, and they're going to be without Derek Harmon, who's a big part of their equation there. So put me down for 20-plus carries for James Cook in this game. It'll be the 4th time in 12 games if I'm right about that. Number 4, I think the Bills get a sack from someone not named Daquan Jones for the first time since the Kansas City game on November 2nd. The Bills have had 1 sack. It was the play at the end of the game against Tampa Bay, and Daquan Jones got a coverage sack. I predict somebody else gets a sack in this game. The Bills' pass rush is ice cold. They're 31st in sack rate. I think they're 28th in pressure rate over the last 3 games. Aaron Rodgers gets the ball out quick. 5th fastest trigger in the league, but he struggles a little bit against the blitz this year. The Bills have got to manufacture some pass rush. They got to. Pittsburgh will be without one of their starting offensive tackles. Put me down for somebody getting a sack in this game not named Daquan Jones. So the predictions so far: 1 or fewer turnovers for the Bills offense. Brandin Cooks plays and catches at least 2 balls. 20 or more carries for James Cook. The Bills get at least one sack from someone not named Daquan Jones. And then, of course, my thoughts on if the Bills win the game or not. All week long, I've been leaning towards a Bills loss. But I'm not going to predict that. I'm going to predict the Bills win. And let me tell you a couple of reasons why. First of all, the Bills do have a rest advantage in this game, which I think is very helpful. Second of all, the urgency factor. And typically during the regular season when the Bills got to have one, they get it. I think that'll happen in this game. And the Steelers are banged up as well. You know, they're without Derek Harmon. They're without Broderick Jones. There's going to be some other players that are playing through some injuries. And there's some interesting contrasts in where, each team has some warts, and if the other team is in position to take advantage of them. But this just feels like one the Bills have to have, and I think they're going to get it. You have a Steelers defense that's been highly vulnerable this year. You have a Bills offense that is highly capable but super inconsistent. But I just don't know if Pittsburgh has the horses on offense to really take advantage of the issues that I think the Bills have on defense. Now, I absolutely see a path for Pittsburgh winning this game. Boy, do I ever see it. It's more of a hunch, to be honest with you, that I feel like the Bills figure this one out with a rest advantage and then get ready for Joe Burrow. Welcome back, dude. You couldn't wait a couple more weeks. Joe Burrow next week, but obviously we got to get through the Steelers game first. So put me down for a Bills win. And with that, the hay is in the barn, folks. We've done all we can to get ready for this game. The only thing that's left to do is for the Bills to figure it out and win it. And boy, they need it. It'd be tough to be talking about a loss on Monday or on Bill Squad right after the game. So that will happen, FYI. Bill Squad live right after this game concludes on Sunday. And then we'll be back in our normal rhythm there, getting out of the Thursday game, and the holiday week, can be a little disruptive for the plans. But we're all back on track here. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.